we wanted to honor you and your group for 50 years of outstanding service with this nice plaque. And I just wanted to read a little bit about the history. On September 10th in 1972, Miss Dorothy M. Huntley Capel of Waitsboro hosted a meeting of 18 women to organize the Waitsboro branch of the National Association of University Women. So it's been actually 51 years now, just about, but everybody sure appreciates all the work that you've done. And at this time, the Anson County Board of Commissioners and the citizens of Anson County acknowledge the National Association of University Women, the Waitsboro branch, for their outstanding community service and commemorates the 50th anniversary. Yeah, a little tough time with that word. So,
thank you.
Yes,
we
ma'am.
are most appreciative. I think I have a lot of plaques, but I don't have one with Anson County in it, even though I worked for Anson County many years. We are grateful for you doing this for us. We had a 50th gala, and it was fantastic. We commemorated members from 50 years all the way back to 1 year, and we are most appreciative. And so while you say that, we bought you just a little small gift, and we hope that you will look at this little memo and think about NAUW and think about our work. We did have Mr. Woodburn in attendance at the event, and we thank him. Anybody else have any comments?
Just want to say I'm still blinging from the 50th because you all felt that we were important enough to be recognized. Thank you.
Yes,
we
ma'am.
sure appreciate y'all, and it was a great presentation last month, and like we all agreed, we need to do a little bit more. So appreciate y'all pricing these out for you.
Thank you. Did you get our picture?
We get some more minutes.
No, I just
Oh, yes.
figured out how to get to an email.
I know you're in the board, but still. All right. Okay, so now the second honor tonight, Miss Victoria Witt. And I think everybody recognizes that name for all the years, if you don't mind coming up. Boy. Yeah, 43 total years. Yeah, that's a lot of commitment and a lot of the recognition of the need for mental health, and I think we've been heading in a totally different direction on how we approach that, and a lot of that we've learned from your program, and we sure appreciate all the work that you've done. But 43 years, this is a little, make sure I get it right, is Miss Victoria Witt was named CEO of Sandhill Center in 2010, and has been employed at Sandhill Center for 43 years, and has contributed over 40 years to meeting mental health needs. And we all know now how important that is, and a lot of new research that tells us how to work with it and have a better outcome. During her career, Ms. Witt coordinated with Anson County and all Sandhill Center counties to identify funding opportunities, which of course for us is important, and strengthen the local behavioral health services. In Anson County, this included funding for therapists in local schools, transportation for members to access services, and assistance with psychiatric evaluations for individuals in the detention center. And I think that's a new approach, because it used to be, we kind of feel at the key, but now we understand a little bit more about what's going on. So therefore, at this time, the Anson County Board of Commissioners and the citizens of Anson County recognize Ms. Victoria Witt's commitment to Anson County in her work in ensuring adequate mental health accessibility. So we sure enough thank you for that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
I appreciate it. And I would like to just say a few words. Thank you, Anson County, for all the support you have been to Sandhill Center and to me personally. I don't think it's, I think everybody here knows, because every time I come over here, I'm from Richmond County. I'm a native of Richmond County, and I always say that next to Richmond County, Anson County is my favorite county because I live about a mile on the other side of the PD River Bridge. And my husband and I actually can get our John Deere Gator and go through the woods and come into Anson County. And on my retirement, I plan to do a lot of gator riding. So thank you so much for all the support, and look forward to the future. Thank you.
All right, now at this time, would there be a motion to go into public hearing to discuss the 23-24 budget?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Gatewood. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Looks like we're going into the open session. So at this time, Mr. Salzman will start our public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've had presented to you budget book. That's my proposed budget for this year. It's a total amount of $55,988,506, which represents a 2.25% increase over the current budget year that we're in. It's balanced in accordance with the Local Government Fiscal Control Act. There is not, and I'm going to repeat, there is not a recommendation there for a property tax increase.
That's right.
Okay. Now, there is a recommendation for a 7% water and sewer rate increase, which would equate to roughly $1 for both water and sewer in terms of the usage of a minimum 2,000 gallons a month. But some highlights that are in there, because I know it's a fairly voluminous thing, but there are a lot of capital projects, if you will. We've looked at them fairly extensively. This building, the admin building, we're looking at the HVAC unit. That's roughly a $20,000 project. The law enforcement building, that's another $48,000 and change for a couple of their HVAC units. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, for those who don't understand that. Also, for law enforcement building, replace cell block A block doors. That's an investment of $188,192. Law enforcement building, there's some stair replacements. That's a $60,000 investment. The jail cabling and cameras come to $271,000. Waterproofing of the Belk building, the south side, there's water intrusion. The city, as my understanding, is going to do a French drain, but we still need to waterproof that so that the basement won't continue to receive water and then turn into mold and mildew, because we got employees there as well as the public. The annex building, we've got to replace heating HVAC units 2 and 4. That's a $69,000 project. Sheriff's vehicle replacements, $325,000. EMS, we got to carry over from this year $388,000, which is going to be for a new ambulance. They're expensive. It goes on from there. Powered ambulance cots, another almost $40,000. There are a few other items like the airport, $45,000, and then we've got things into equipment needs, roughly $6,000. Upgrading our front entrance at DSS. That's a continuing project. I think it's going fairly well with the things that are going inside. But that's $50,000, and then also to replace some HVAC units down at the library. All that together is over $2 million, right at $2.07 million. So those are some of the highlights that are in your budget that make up that almost $56 million. There's also a COLA in there that the board asked us to look at, cost of living adjustment, 2.5%. Before you had whenever Ms. Jackson made a presentation about the state providing us with another 5 employees for DSS, you need to approve that. And then also 2 positions that you have semi-approved for the finance department, a procurement officer as well as another finance generalist. We're changing the staffing for EMS, Holly and I have worked with Rodney, and right now there are 3 shifts of 5 personnel each, and there's a lot of overtime. We feel like they're being overworked because some of them have jobs elsewhere. So we're recommending adding another 5-person shift. That will actually, even though it sounds counterintuitive, that will save us money from the overtime initiative, and I think make everybody safer. They're going to be working 24 hours on, 72 hours off. Health insurance, I know you probably recognized it.
Yeah.
That's increased by 10%. Our property and liability, unfortunately, guilt by association nationwide as well as here in North Carolina, it's up about 38%. And that's, I mean, most everybody that has insurance on a house or car have probably faced very similar things. Then we've got some certifications in there for employees that are getting certified or recertified. And then we're looking to maybe hire a part-time person for Wendell in building maintenance, which we estimate would be about $10,000 a year. So those are some of the biggest highlights that equate to that almost $56 million budget that we're presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Salzman.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion from the board? One thing I'd like to point out, in the beginning, Mr. Salzman mentioned that there'll be no property tax increase, and I think that's important for everybody to know. That's not on the table, so that's important for people to know. The water rate increase, I just go ahead and clarify that a little bit. The state recommendation, and they fund a lot of our water system, they made a recommendation several years ago to increase the rate. When COVID hit, some of the people thought maybe we should wait until after that because people were having a hard time during COVID. But the rate increase for water, like Mr. Salzman said, is going to be about $2 a month or less. So it's a small increase, but the state gives us that recommendation, and in all kind of clarity to work with them and receive the grant money that they allow us. They want us to keep up with the costs. And one of the quotes, and I said it in the last budget meeting, is the state said that unless we raise the rates, they don't want to invest in a county that won't invest in itself, and that all the surrounding counties and all the municipalities and everybody else has raised rates and we haven't. So I'm just letting y'all know a water rate increase is not a tax increase. So if there's any confusion there, so I just wanted to point that out. So is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things. And I'll preface this by saying, Mr. Salzman, I understand the reasoning behind them. I'm talking about the 4 items that's not included in the budget. The 2 that I'm looking at, I'm hoping that we'll continue to work on those. First of all, law enforcement. I know it says sheriff reorganization plan, but I know that's basically additional support and funding for the sheriff's department, and also the additional funds for South Piedmont. And we're actually holding up some progress there, so I would ask that we continue to look at if there's any way possible to make those 2 things happen.
I'm glad you asked that question, because the I guess it's been called a reorganization for the sheriff's department.
Mm-hmm.
That would cost, in round figures, an additional $276,000. And if you say so, then we can add that to it. The South Piedmont, I'm not sure, remember, I know it was over $300,000 that they've asked for. If you add that, already we're using $6.9 million of undesignated fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
So that would just add to that number, so it would probably boost it to about $7.5 million of undesignated fund balance to balance the budget, still without a property increase.
Right, right.
One thing that I'd like to point out, and I know we're going to have another budget final meeting in the end of June, but I'd like to point out, I don't make motions as the chairman, but I would like to point out that our number 1 responsibility up here is public safety, and I totally support the sheriff reorganization, and I hope, although I don't make a motion as a chairman, that we'll make that motion to support that program in its entirety.
And what you can do tonight, since those are 2 important issues, is since you don't make a motion, Mr. Chairman,
I would make that.
Commissioner Woodcock can make it, get a second, vote on it, and then Holly and I'll put that back in. That would be, put it more toward a finality. But the reason I wanted to have a meeting on the 27th is the General Assembly of North Carolina is still in session. They haven't adopted a budget yet, so I'm not sure when that will be adopted. It's always been my practice since our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30, to try to set a time near the end of June, which is near the end of our fiscal year, to adopt a budget just in case something's done in Raleigh that might have an adverse impact. For instance, they could change sales taxes, they could change other taxes, they could change state shared revenues, if you will, and then that would have an adverse impact on our budget if we hadn't prepared for it. Plus, it also gives our finance director the more time, if you will, to do the last minute budget amendments on the current year budget, not next year's budget.
Okay, that sounds good. Do we at this time have the opportunity to make those two motions for those two expenses?
Yes, sir. If that's the board's pleasure, we can do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Before we make the motion, just a question. About 18 months ago, we received, I guess it was $4.6 million in COVID funds.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any of those funds left over where we could apply to the capital project at South Piedmont Community College?
I think you've already applied them to other capital items. I think the one that's not, there's one or two in here that we were carrying over, as I indicated. But I think everything that we've received, that $4-point-something million, has already been spent or else designated for another project.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
One thing I could maybe point out is in the LKC project, when they had talked about having to bore under Whispering Pines Road, that was an additional $150,000 when it brought that figure up to $788,000. Now we can assume at least 100,000 of that, since we don't have to bore, should come back into that COVID fund that was set aside. So if that money were to become available, then we could redirect that hopefully to the SPCC project. Not to say that we'd have to wait for it, but that could be a way to redirect.
Absolutely would. But you can't do it right now because obviously that project has not been bid.
That's right.
But as you know, I just sent to you today another permit that we received on that project, so we're getting closer so that LKC can bid it, and then we'll know for sure. So as soon as we find out what that next bid will be, we can bring that back to you for approval, and then you can look and see what the savings is.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion that we have the county manager and finance add the sheriff reorganization plan and additional funds for SPCC to the budget.
Second.
Great news. Mr. Woodburn makes the motion. Mr. Gatewood second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passed. So I'm real happy. So, okay, all right. Is there any more discussion for the public hearing at this time?
Mr. Manager, you mentioned certifications and recertifications. What does that entail?
There's certain positions that the county has that you have to have a certification at a certain level in order to continue to perform that duty. One of them actually is a lady that you mentioned earlier, Miss Katie Ingram, in terms of her HR responsibilities. There's some others that I don't remember all of them, but there's some others that do have to have certifications.
And what does that mean relative to the budget?
Right now there's $3,000 in the budget for certifications.
All right.
In terms of if you're asking for a dollar figure.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any more discussion?
Hear from the public if anybody has anything.
We've got no one signed up, so I just wanted to point that out to speak during the proposed budget hearing. So if there is no further discussion, would anyone like to make a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Cottle, I think Woodburn and Gatewood. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion to close the public hearing passes. Okay, thank you. Now we're looking into the consent agenda. Do we have a motion or discussion of the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I believe my questions have already been answered, but I just wanted to make absolutely sure. The repairs, it says repairs to the Belk building and annex location. I guess the Belk building was the moisture issue that you mentioned.
Well, moisture issues, yes.
That's what the,
I guess I called it.
it says allocate funding to cover unanticipated building repairs at the Belk and annex locations. So I'm wondering about the Belk building.
Right, the Belk building is the big one there. Is that total price, if I remember right, is $130,000. What we hope to help it is that the city, I've talked to David Edwards, town manager, and they've agreed that this has window and they're going to do a French drain.
Okay.
And that should help divert the water away from it. It's going to be a difficult process because, you know, that's upgrade from the Belk building.
Okay. All right. And let's see. Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Mims. All those in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda passes as it is. All right, now for the public addresses to the board, let me read this statement right quick, and then I've got the list of names. For each citizen shall be allowed 3 minutes. The commissioners are expected not to comment on matters to the board during this time, but to delay action or comment until staff has an opportunity to research the subject matter. So we'll hear what the citizen concerns are, starting with Pastor Carpenter, please.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you, each one of you that I got to talk to. It was a pleasure, and I don't know, I'm just excited about what the Anson County government's going to do going forward. Mr. Sossman, you really you impressed me, okay? And I thank God we've got a county manager like you, and thank God for each one of you that are serving in the capacity for Anson County. Some people don't understand it. I understand it, okay? And so I appreciate you and thank you for what you're doing. I've got, I know all of you know me. I'm Rocky Carpenter, and I'm, let's see, first and foremost, a born-again believer in Jesus Christ. I want to make sure everybody understands that. Secondly, I'm pastor of Harmony Community Church. Been there since 1997. We're in the big metropolis of Peachland, North Carolina. Also, I'm president of Southern Fabricators. Been there since 1979, so I know what it is to wear a couple of hats. And I got a lot of, I know when you go through my plant, I know every one of our employees by name. We got 170 workers. In our church, I know every one of them by name. So when something happens to them, it just really hits me to heart. And y'all know I've been talking to each one of you about this casino, whatever entertainment district or whatever it is that's supposed to be coming. And I just, I talked to our Representative Mark Brody again today, and I asked him, I said, have we gone to total communism? Because I really don't know how much you guys and gals are going to be able to do about what's happening. For the state government to be able to say, I'm going to put something in your county without anybody having a vote on it or without anybody say so, I think to my knowledge, the only thing you guys and gals are going to be able to do is maybe send a resolution, if I'm correct on that. But still, I know everything's not a done deal. I know it's still in the Senate, and they're going to put it in the budget and the whole 9 yards to try to get it through. But we just really do not need this in our beautiful county. And I'm gonna approach it from a spiritual perspective, and I've talked to each one of you, and you've told me about your faith, and I'm gonna approach it from that I want you to understand what 1 Corinthians 2:5 says, that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. And we've got a warfare going on right here in Anson County. Now, everybody that's going to make money off of this, they're telling us things like, your property values are going to triple when the casino comes. Lie. Did research today, and a man by the name of Summer Davis Inman, he estimated the that properties next to casino are usually go down in value, estimated between 2% and 10% drop in the net value of their property. We've also been saying that there's going to be high-paying jobs coming to Anson County because of the casino. Did another study in Las Vegas, the average annual pay for casino. Now this is Las Vegas, where they build the big casinos there, and they keep building big casinos because everybody loses but the big casinos. And so the average wage there is $28,000 a year. That equates to $13.56 an hour. If you'll go online, you'll look and see that some of the casino workers in Las Vegas are on food stamps. Oh, it's 2 minutes now. I got 2 minutes left. Oh yeah, I'll go fast. Anyway, next thing, proven fact. DUIs will double when the casino comes. They're going to double, and we have that from the Sands Casino Resort in Bethlehem. It happened in their county. It'll happen in our county. Brother Smith, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of burying young men before their time. Okay, I'm tired of the violence. I'm tired of bringing someone else in that's going to actually draw them into an evil situation. I want our kids to live. I want them to have a great life here. The other thing is that, more people are going to gamble, but it's just going to be the folks that are earning the less in the county. They'll spend 13% of their earnings. And why do we think the poor are going to gamble more than others? It's because that their households have almost 100% higher rate of gambling than the general population. They're trying to get something for nothing. They're trying to get out of the hole. And I beg you, commissioners, please look. It feels like that this is going to be an answer to our sewer problem, our waste treatment plant, or our middle school or something, but trust me, it will not be, okay? It will not be the answer. So that's the reason why they're coming to a Tier 1 county. We have no gaming commission in North Carolina right now. Who's going to regulate it? We don't have any regulation there. And then finally, I'm just going to wrap it up. You know how I feel about it. As a born-again believer, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, if the only thing you do is sign the resolution and you say, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever because we're going to put it here anyway, it's going to make a difference to the Lord. And here's what he says in Matthew 12:30. Anyone who isn't with me opposes me. And anyone who isn't working with me is actually working against me. You guys, you have a tremendous potential here as a board, okay, to do some great things for Anson County. And that's what I'm praying that you're going to do. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yes.
I say thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I promised our sheriff that I would only take less than 3 minutes, but I have 4 topics for you. One is this one. I'm going to show you this one while I talk about another. Senate Bill 299. I hope some of you are familiar with it. Last month, it passed the Senate second reading 40-0. 299. This gives the state authority to withhold tax, sales tax money that comes from the counties that are supposed to be sent back to the counties. It will give the state authority to withhold 150% of the cost of the state helping with late budgets, improper budgets, whatever. Be careful of this one. It will kick you hard. On May 4th, I attended an online public conference, EPA Drinking Water Conference, There were 276 experts in this conference. 8 hours of listening to what EPA is planning to do with the Biden-Harris proposal, which has full support of the Congress. They've already spent $12 billion in the last 12 months to get the information together to make this law. If this passes, it will bankrupt every state in this union. Anson County doesn't have a chance. It will shut down your water system. It will shut down your sewage system because of the chemicals involved, which are these. The 7 chemicals that are involved. Several of them are involved in the firefighters' foam, which I noticed that you may discuss tonight. These chemicals are used in food products. They're used in most plastics. They're almost always used in water bottles. The water itself contains these chemicals. The EPA, the World Health Organization, says there is 0 tolerance for the human body for these chemicals. These are all man-made chemicals, and they are forever chemicals. They have a half-life of 1,000 years. They're in all surface waters, all rivers, all creeks, and all oceans. That can be a major problem. I would like to say to Reverend Rocky Carpenter that I admire his work, I admire him. I hope that you will listen to what he said and take it to heart. This casino is a family killer, is a family destroyer. I had a 21-year-old brother killed by drunk drivers in April. I have no tolerance for drinking and driving, 0 tolerance. And this casino will cause a major problem with that. Don't forget this. You need it very soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Helms?
I just want to thank y'all board for listening to my plea a couple months ago about the sheriff's department. And I did want to say this: no casino. I've been living here 7 years. I don't want to see no casino in this county to disrupt this county and Union County, because it's going to cause a chaos in both counties, Union County and Anson County. And not only the chaos it's going to cause these guys to have more work on them, to have to protect us from all the people that loses all their money and they ain't got nothing left, so they turn to robbing and stealing. So, Mr. Gatewood,
Yes,
I'm glad you won the term this year, because I respect you so much. I respect you for what you do, and I thank you for. Also, I just wanted to say, this is not. I've been here 7 years. I've learned this county pretty well. I've known a lot of y'all in this county. I'm dealing with cancer right now, and I want y'all to keep me in your prayers, because I need your prayers today. But I would like to say, on my last term here, please, no casinos. Please support my sheriff's department, because they're the lifeline of our business here in this county. And I want y'all to please protect them so they can protect us. And I do want to say, to utilize the farmers market, it's a new market this year. I found different ways, and I wanted to bring this proposal to the commissioners, that utilizing this market is making not a trade lot out of it, but making a little place where people can go on Friday or so and maybe enjoy themselves like a little flea market. That would be extra income for the county to make while the while the farmer's market is sitting idle during the week. And that proposal I'm making today to make extra income. If the county is going to have this property, they need to be making money off of it. So my proposal today is to leave the casinos alone. The liquor came, but the casino don't need to be here. That is my last plea for y'all today. Please listen to my plea. No casino. No casino. Mr. Gatewood, thank you for letting me run against you in 2018. I think you are a very diligent commissioner, and I highly respect you for all your work, because I know you do a great job. And they do no use of me or nobody else running against you, because it won't do any good. You're a very fine man. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. How
Thank
much
you,
do I
Mr.
owe you?
Gatewood.
Thank you, Mr. Helms. All right, at this time, we have an appearance by Miss Witt from the Sandhill Center.
Good evening again. I'm Victoria Witt. I'm the CEO of Sandhill Center, and this is Anthony Ward, who is the Deputy Director at Sandhill Center. We are here officially tonight to present the Sandhill Center request for county general funding. I also want to take this opportunity before we present that request to once again state that I will be retiring from Sandhill Center on June 30th of this year. The board, the Sandhill Center board in April made the decision to appoint Anthony Ward to the position of CEO effective July 1st. So continuity, I think a lot of people, I think many of you already know Anthony, but I am going to ask him to say a few words of introduction.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, it's good to be with you this evening. I'm Anthony Ward, Deputy Director with Sandhill Center. For a little bit of background, I've been with behavioral health since 2004. Started off in the direct service days and then started making the transition to administrative management of dollars and then to the management of the Medicaid dollars. I've been with Sandhill Center since 2012. So I had an opportunity to work with Anson County since that time. By way of education, I have a background in social work and a background in business administration. So if you have any questions as we go forward about the behavioral health system or any constituent concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I can have a conversation with you both about the finances or about clinical services. So I look forward to working with you as we move forward.
So as I said, we're here to present our request, but before I do that, I would like to recognize and thank this board for your appointment of 2 commissioners to the Sandhill Center board. Those people serving on the Sandhill Center board are Commissioner Mims and Commissioner Little Reed. Let me get that right this time. They serve on the Sandhill Center board. They are not only faithful members, but they are also part of leadership. Commissioner Little Reed serves as the vice chair of the board after serving several years as the secretary, and Commissioner Mims serves on the finance committee. So once again, they're not just show up at the monthly meeting type of people. They are people who are actually working in the leadership role at Sandhill Center. Our board met in March, on March 14th, and for the 19th year in a row, the board made the decision to not request any additional funding from any of our counties. We have 11 counties, so we are requesting that those counties provide the same level of funding that they have provided over the past 19 years. You'll remember that we took on the management of Medicaid dollars in 2012, which has allowed us to fulfill the needs of folks in our catchment area without having to come to the county for any additional funding. So the amount we are requesting tonight is $55,000. That is the same amount that you have been providing. I'll remind you, all that money stays right here in Anson County to support services for folks who do not have private insurance, Medicare or Medicaid. So that funding stays here to assist indigent folks getting behavioral health services. So as you're working through your budget, I would hope that you would consider this request and continue to provide this very valuable funding to Sandhill Center. I'm going to ask Anthony to give you a few program updates, especially around services here in Anson County, and then we'll both be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So in your packet earlier, there was a few packets of information that was sent to you. One of those is our quarterly report. Our annual report is included in there as well. There's a listing of some of the programs that we're working on, some of the collaborations locally. That's in there for your information. But there's one that I want to spend a little bit of time going through. It's the single sheet of paper that shows the number of individuals served last calendar year. So as you look at that chart, the first thing you see there in the top left corner is the monthly number of individuals. It hovers around 250 to 300 individuals. Now that's not all the behavioral health services that are provided here in Anson County. You may remember in July of 2021 the standard plans started. When those standard plans started, some of the individuals that we had earlier served shifted to those standard plans. So I don't have information to share with you about those, but overall our population went from about 200,000 Medicaid eligibles with behavioral health needs down to about 60,000. So there was a fairly significant shift that occurred during that period of time. As you move on around clockwise of that list, you see the most frequent behavioral health services received last year through Sandhill Center. You see the investment in Anson County is $11.7 million. The largest of those is in innovation services and then intermediate care facilities. Psychosocial rehabilitation is next, followed by hospitalization, inpatient hospitalization, which is the highest level of behavioral health care, and then followed by outpatient services. About 60% of the individuals served last year had a primary adult mental health diagnosis, followed by 18% with adult substance use. And then finally on that page you see the providers that were serving Anson County individuals last year. 146 providers serving individuals. The largest of those was Daymart. As Victoria mentioned earlier, Daymart has the local county dollars where they provide crisis services. They have a contract with us for our Medicaid dollars as well as state-funded dollars. So they have the widest array of services that are available. You see Atrium there next, and Carolina's Emergency Group, which is the physicians that are offering those services with Atrium. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the service array here locally for Anson County and how the numbers are shaping up about those. Any questions about that information? All right, hearing none, I'll hand it back to Victoria.
Or any questions about the budget request or anything else?
Thank you for keeping it at $55,000 for
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
and lead into the gentleman that's coming behind you too.
yeah. If there's no further discussion, does anyone make a motion to accept?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve the Sandhill Center budget request for FY 23-24, $55,000.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Woodburn, second by Commissioner Gatewood. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to review the appointments for the JCPC board first. It would be to consider removing Amy Locklear from the JCPC board and approve the following new members to the JCPC board: Brian Tice, Benjamin Turnage, and Sharonda McNeil. Does anyone make a motion?
Commissioner Mills makes
Commissioner Mims make a motion to...
I'll second it, and then
Second.
I've got a question. When you...
Okay, second by Commissioner Woodburn, but for discussion.
Yes, sir. I was just wondering, did the JCPC board make the request to remove Ms. Locklear? They did? Okay. All right, I'm good.
Okay. So all those in favor, if there's no more discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Okay, the second appointment is going to be for the RFAAC Regional F Aging Advisory Committee reappointment. And in that motion, we request to reappoint Pat Adams to the Region F Aging Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioners Mims and Little, Reed. And all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion carries for those two appointments. Okay, now for the administrative matters. In response to Commissioner Gatewood's request, the information was provided in our package for the Juneteenth holiday comparison. Is there any discussion of there? No discussion? Okay. B, administrative matters. The 2024 holiday schedule. I think on that we're going to need a motion to accept.
I'll make that motion, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Woodburn, second by Commissioner Mims. All those is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Motion carries. The holiday schedule is approved.
And Mr. Chairman, just, back to the previous item, and I was thinking it was going to be included, and this is good information that Ms. Ingram has provided as far as the holiday schedule. I'm just kind of wondering if there's anything so we can kind of look at other counties as the holidays they have, so we see how we stack up against them. Do we have less holidays, more, or what?
She provided us with a sheet that says 46 other counties have Juneteenth as a holiday. She had already presented that with her to us.
Yeah, I'm not talking about I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm not talking about
Total
Juneteenth. I'm talking about total holidays.
Oh,
okay.
Just say we've got 12. What's the average for other counties in North Carolina? Are we more than them, less than them, or what? That's kind of what.
Well, actually, Mr. Woodburn, for 2024, we have 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
Plus birthday leave, which is not included on the list.
Right.
So we are very liberal compared to the federal and compared to the state of North Carolina.
Oh, I understand that. But I'm just curious about other counties in particular. That's the only reason I'm asking.
And I thought, like, for Christmas, it's kind of a shame that we can't adjust that a little bit, because if we get Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off, if Christmas is on Wednesday, it would be nice if we could do Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then have a 5-day week. But I guess it's, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if it pleases the board, Miss Ingram is here, and I think she has the information that's being discussed.
Is that part of the discussion?
She's behind the podium.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. I did have Ms. Martin reach out to some of the other counties for us,
Okay.
so I'm just going to give this to Ms. Cannon to pass it to you guys. So of the 100 counties, the ones that's responded so far were 20, and I believe I gave you my copy, Denise. So in there you'll see of the 20 counties that's responded so far, most of those do follow the state holiday, but I would want to say there's maybe like 3 or 4 that do currently observe Juneteenth, but we're the only county so far that gives an extra day for the 4th of July. And she's still been polling counties, so as we compile that information, I can send that over to Ms. Cannon to give you guys an updated list. But these are the ones that has responded as of today.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ingram. Yes, that's what I was looking for. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Is there any option to look at that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Christmas, so that they don't have to come back on? If you take Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off, you got to come back for Friday. It seemed like Is that not an option that we could consider?
The Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is actually the state schedule, so we're just following what the state currently
Okay,
has
well,
for their
that's
employees.
what I need to know, and that makes sense, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any more discussion on the holiday schedule? We've already made the motion. Okay, proposal for an additional monthly meeting, and on page 132, we talk about that. In discussion with some of the commissioners, and then just listening in the past, a lot of the other counties have 2 meetings a month, and I think at first it may be that it's hard to get used to, but I think once they level off, and this is just my opinion, the 2 meetings a month will be 2 shorter, more concise meetings, but there'll be less time between meetings. So if there's a question and you have to wait 30 days for the next meeting approximately, if we have 2 meetings a month, and just as an idea, because again, I don't make the motions, if we could have the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday.
Make a motion that we leave it as is.
I second it.
Well, so far, let me finish. And if we were to do the 2 meetings a month, we would want to start probably in August, because in July 4th falls on a Tuesday. So we're not going to have our July meeting until the 10th. So we probably wouldn't want to have a meeting the next week after that 10th. So if anyone were interested in this proposal, I would suggest that we might start it in August and then go to 2 meetings a month, and at 6 o'clock on the first and third Tuesdays.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of having 2 meetings, why not recess the meeting that we're in, and then we can cover it that way instead of us going to 2 meetings?
Well, the recess meeting would be a continuation of...
Okay, well, that's what we're doing anyhow. We're just trying to make the first meeting shorter.
Well,
Did you carry the motion? I make a motion, we leave it as is.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I know y'all are discussing things, but there has been a motion and a second. I just want to remind the board.
That's right. I just wanted to finish my comment, but
Yes, sir. Yes,
there's been a motion made and a second not to go to the 2 meetings a month. Is there any discussion?
Well,
For clarification, the motion is to leave it as is.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes. That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I want to make sure. Thank you.
but you can make a comment that's different than what the motion is, right? I mean, because
That's right.
You want to talk about it, right?
Discussion.
Can't you make a comment that's different than what the motion is asking for? If you want to have some discussion about
You
it.
can make comments or whatever. I just want to make sure the motion was stated properly. That's all.
And if this motion doesn't carry, there can be a motion made to have the schedule with 2 meetings a month.
If this motion doesn't carry, it says to stay the same. So there will be some type of change that y'all would want to do.
That's right.
That would be leading into that. The motion was for it to stay the same.
That's right.
And so if this motion doesn't carry, I will be prepared to clarify what it is.
Okay, so
It being the calendar, or the meeting schedule.
So at this time, there's a motion made by Mr. Smith and second by Commissioner Little. All those in favor of leaving it like it is, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye.
Aye.
The motion doesn't carry. So
What about raised hands on that motion?
He wants a roll call?
okay, we got Commissioner Mims, Commissioner Woodburn, Commissioner Caudle, Commissioner Bricken, and Commissioner Gatewood all in favor of not leaving it like it is, and we'll need some clarity on what direction we want to go now.
Okay, my comment was going to be, is that there's a couple of different ways to do this. And I think what's being talked about, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I guess any meeting that we do would be an official meeting, but we'd have the first meeting on the first Tuesday of the month would be where we discuss and make decisions. We vote on items. The second meeting, there's 2 ways to do this. My thinking is, on the second meeting is where we come together, and this is my thinking is, and the commissioners that don't want to do it, then attendance will be optional. those commissioners that feel like there's more information needed on an item, there's more follow-up needed, can be here. We can get that from the county manager, the department head, or whoever we need. But in that way, we don't have to have all that discussion at the regular meeting on the first Tuesday. So we'll have a couple of different meetings, but each one of them should be fairly short, because in between those meetings, the county staff and the manager has the opportunity to get the information that we may need on any item that we're not clear on. And I know we've had several situations where contracts have come before us, and we wanted to look at them before we voted on them.
That's right.
I agree with you 100%. That's why I don't want to be proposed with a contract right here at this podium and vote on it the night that it's proposed. I would like to read what I'm voting on.
That's right.
Which is why I proposed the second meeting a month. I question and none of these are mandatory meetings, I understand, but if you're not going to attend the second meeting for the informational purposes, we're going to discuss the same information again on the first meeting, because whoever didn't attend, they're not going to know what we talked about.
Well, we can explain it, because we already got the information.
Yeah.
Whereas now, all of us asking questions.
Who pay for that meeting?
There's no cost for the
Let's see
meeting.
about that.
There's no cost other than what we're doing now, in my opinion.
I'm not aware of a cost.
Yeah, what cost are we incurring?
The county employees are already working. I mean, and, you know, we want the ones that we need for a meeting.
Maybe one light bill extra a month, but that's about it, I think. But maybe, yeah, so...
But that's my 2 cents worth, so that's where I am.
Yeah. Well, at this time, would anyone like to make a motion to go to the 2 meetings a month based on the conversation that we've just had? Motion made by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Cottle. All those in favor of 2 meetings a month, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes to have 2 meetings a month. They'll be at the first and third Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And that would be similar to the way Union County does. Not that we're trying to be like them, but just something that I looked into.
Starting in August, correct?
Yes, sir. Starting in August, because again, our July meeting will be on July 10th on the Monday, because July 4th is a Tuesday. So we probably wouldn't want to have back-to-back meetings. But I looked throughout the rest of the calendar year, and that first Tuesday doesn't come into play again during this calendar year. Whenever that happens, we could address it in the previous meeting that, hey, the Tuesday that's coming up is a holiday. If that happens, we could probably all agree to limit it to 1 meeting that month, so we don't have 2 meetings within 2 weeks.
And I believe we can address that once we approve our meeting schedule, which I think occurred in January.
Yes, sir. It occurs. Well, it occurs when we get elected, right?
Actually,
December.
Yeah,
So
December. December, we'll know the next year's schedule.
That's right.
And we can address it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be perfect. And so for this rest of this year until the December meeting, we'll be in good shape. So, okay, so it's everybody's satisfied with the conversation, and we can move on. The revised personnel ordinance, that's what we're going into now. If you all remember, in the last meeting, we were revising the personnel ordinance, the HR ordinance, for the county assessor and the county clerk of the board to reflect the state statute. And that information is in the package, and we're required to come back 30 days later and vote on that again, which is where we are tonight.
I make a motion that remain the same.
Second? Okay, motion made by Commissioner Smith to remain the same, second by Commissioner Woodburn. Any discussion?
Yeah, I don't really see a real reason to make a change on this. I know what the statute says, but I mean, we've operated this way for years without any problems, so I don't understand why we need to change at this point.
I agree.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Woodburn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say aye.
Aye.
The motion is overrode. Do we have a motion to change the HR personnel ordinance to the statute at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Cottle. All those in favor of changing or correcting the HR ordinance to reflect the state statute, say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
The motion carries. All right, we're now getting into the local government official form, the ABC permitting process. On page 137, in the ABC meeting that I attended, they said that we're required to select as a county, as it says here, the Office of Anson County Sheriff to officially review and make recommendations concerning suitability of a person or a location for an ABC permit. So we would need to make a motion to allow the sheriff to be the designated person to do the local government official form in the ABC permitting process. So at this time, do we have a motion to allow the sheriff that position? Motion made by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Woodburn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The sheriff?
Had a discussion with the sheriff about that.
Yeah, we have. He's aware of it, and
I just want a little bit of clarity, Mr. Chairman. So that is, the sheriff will approve the applications throughout the county, but your individual municipalities, they will have to designate their own person or office to approve those. Correct?
Individual municipalities can designate their own. If they don't have a law enforcement officer, would be the most likely candidate. They can designate a council member. They can designate a clerk. They can designate whoever they feel. But the municipalities that are officially separated from the county, like Ansonville or Peachland, Polkton, they all have to designate their own person to do the local government official form. They're not required to be a law enforcement official, but in most cases, from what I researched, it seemed to make sense because they're going to be the ones likely to have to deal with the situations that occur. And so those municipalities, you wouldn't be responsible for Wadesboro, Ansonville, Peachland, Polkton, Morven. Their municipal candidate that they select would be the one to do that particular form.
Could they select the sheriff?
From what I understand, they can't, because it has to be somebody within the municipality jurisdiction. And unless that's wrong, Attorney Forbes?
I want to make sure I heard what subject exactly are we talking about?
The question by Commissioner Cottle was, can the sheriff then still do that form for, say, the town of Wadesboro? And I'm under the impression that he's not in his jurisdiction to do that in Wadesboro.
I would say they would have to reach some type of agreement with, it would be their jurisdiction to ask to do that, not the county's. But I'm in agreement with you. It would cause some problems to have a county sheriff doing a municipal thing like that. But however, I could see where they could designate someone if they were in agreement.
And I certainly can't speak for the sheriff, but I'm pretty sure he's got enough to do in the county.
It'd have to be some type of local agreement.
Yes, sir. That's what I would assume. Yes, sir.
I think that's the way it works. We have no authority in municipal boundaries.
That's right.
I just wasn't sure. In other words, the sheriff's office controls the jurisdiction of the law enforcement in Peachland, so they are the jurisdiction. So that's why I was questioning it, but we can discuss it later.
I believe each municipality can designate their person. It does not have to be law enforcement. They can designate their manager, their town manager, or anyone like that. They can designate someone that works there. So.
Yeah. So, so at this point, we have designated the sheriff as our official contact person. Mm-hmm. Is there any more discussion on that matter? All right, now for Mr. Salzman, the manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask your indulgence for Attorney Forbes to talk to you about the firefighting foam litigation.
Yes, sir.
I've discussed this matter with some of you. The firefighting foam litigation is brought to me by the exact same attorneys who represent us in the opioid litigation that has paid us a little over $1 million so far, and this is going to be a program like the opioid foundation or the lawsuit, where this firefighting foam has almost decimated several water supplies throughout the state and other states. But we're concerned with the one here in North Carolina, as I understand it. The long and the short of it is, we're entering an agreement, and we have that agreement. You're going to designate that the county manager signed that agreement, and that by signing that agreement, we are engaging this attorney to represent our interest being the county's interest in getting our settlement on this money. Thus far, they've done over $1 million in the opioids. We do not have to pay if we do not recover. That is one of the things I asked them to change in the agreement that we have. But if they do not make a recovery, we do not have to pay them. However, they would get a percentage of our recovery, which is 25%. Okay, it is to no expense of us. Also, I want to make sure everyone understands the amount of money to be paid out is the amount of money that will be paid out. If we do not engage, it will just be given to someone else, another county. I'm not sure at this time what the limitations on how we spend that money, how the county would spend that money is. I know that there has been some thought of making sure that fire departments get reimbursed for some expenses that they have, but I'm not sure how that will go yet. Within those limitations that are agreed upon, the county would designate how that money is spent.
And I would wonder if, although it's not official because we don't know what our limitations for spending the money, I think Fire Chief Cottle would like to make sure that we all agree that it would go to the fire departments if we're allowed to.
You'll have plenty of time to do that once we get the money.
Okay.
You will be able to designate that as far as I know, but I'd like to see what the parameters are of the settlement.
That's right.
Yeah.
I would just like, for clarification for the public, even though this is a firefighting foam issue, and the fire departments locally here in the county and across the state and across the nation use this foam, we did not use this foam knowing it caused problems.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
I believe the litigation is expected to disclose that some of the firefighting foam companies' information was not exactly published properly.
Right.
But that's going to be left up to the litigation. I think that's some of the allegations.
Thank you.
And during the time when I was wildland firefighting, there was no warning. Nobody told us. We had no assumption that there was ever anything wrong. And it's a wettable foam that makes the water absorb better into the fire. And to me, we just thought we were doing what we were supposed to do. So
I would almost say I don't know that there was another option at the time. That was the only foam we could purchase and use. So I just want the public to know the fire department was not contaminating the water system of the county on purpose.
Again, that information was not disclosed to the fire department.
That's
right. It was just sold. So.
Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
What would this board be discussing on that second meeting during the month?
Whatever that board wants to discuss as far as county business goes. I would guess that would be under the same parameters of any other meeting that you notice under that situation. I don't believe it would fall under the parameters of a special meeting or an emergency meeting, but I believe it will be a general meeting if that is what's being disclosed. That's how I understood the motion.
Well, I'm not clear on that because you've been having a second meeting in the month when we had to. So what would be the difference?
As I understand it, the board motion would be that they want a general second meeting that would cover situations like the primary meeting that they're having now, and they would not be under the same constraints as a special meeting where they would have to call it within 48 hours. They would already have it published to the public, and it would probably be a lot more broad than a regular special meeting or even an emergency meeting that would be limited to just those subjects that are delineated. That's my understanding of it. It will be up to the board to delineate what that meeting's going to have if they do that.
It's been a meeting just like this one, just anything that comes up that we need to address or anything that we didn't finish in the regular meeting, you follow up on the next meeting.
And it'll give us more interaction with the public. They'll get to interact with us twice a month instead of once, and we'll get to interact with them.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we assign or task the county manager with applying for the firefighting foam litigation on behalf of Anson County.
Second. Motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioners Mims and Cottle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
And that's through this legal form that's in our pack.
With the 25%, which actually is kind of nice because it's usually 30 or 33, right?
Correct. That's what I always signed mine when I was doing it.
Yeah. So they're not taking the Scott Forbes approach. All right. So now we get into the gazebo interlocal agreement conversation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. A month or so back, I was approached by both the town manager here in Wadesboro as well as Mayor Ballard, and they asked about the lot that's across Wade Street from us next to the Scarborough building, and what they would like to do for beautification purposes is be able to lease it on an annual basis and turn it more into a garden, if you will. I think our attorney has put into provisions in this lease that will be 1 year. If you approve it tonight, it actually starts tonight. The lease amount is $1,001 a year. They will carry the proper insurance. They will enter into an agreement with, say, a local garden club, and then they can't tear down the gazebo. They have to protect it, so it's not going anywhere. I just wanted to point that out in case somebody's fearful of that. But their intent is not to do that, but it's to provide further enhancements for beautification purposes for downtown Wadesboro.
And just for clarity, that's kind of like coming out the door from Parsons and going across the road into where all the new mulch is and the new picnic tables?
No, sir. No, sir. It's right. If you look out the window here in the Government Center, it's right across the street. It's next to the Scarborough building, but it's owned, but it's also part of the courthouse property.
Okay.
Where the clock and the gazebo.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking it was that because I see a lot of new cleaning up of the other area. So
they're cleaning the other area up that's right across the street from it.
Yeah.
Because of like I said earlier, they're going to put in a French drain to help prevent the intrusion into Priscilla's building.
Okay. Yeah, and they did have. I just going to throw this out there. The Common Ground Fellowship Outdoor Christian Worship was there in that square on Sunday morning, and it's a public worship program now for 9 o'clock, and for people that may not be going to church anywhere, they can come. So,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the gazebo interlocal agreement at $1 per year, including insurance coverage.
Motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Cottle.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it going to bother people that's having weddings? Sometimes they have weddings up there. Is that going to affect that? Okay.
This should bother them.
It should enhance
it. Make it a little more decorative.
Okay.
That's the goal.
And Darrell, the item 6 covers the restrictions. Nothing major can be done there as far as tearing down anything or building anything without, they'll have to come to the county before that can happen.
Right.
Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? So the motion for the interlocal agreement passes. So now the surplus disposal, we've got some information in the package of different things that we're selling through the disposal process, and at this time I think everybody's been able to review those items. Do we have any discussion there?
Mr. Chairman, if I could point out on page 140, this property, ruling from the School of Government up at Chapel Hill, we just take surplus property that you, before we put it out for disposal or for selling, you approve the listing, if you remember. Unfortunately, sometimes we have broken furniture and other items that sit there forever almost, and nobody bids on them. So what my suggestion is that you can discard them if they have no value and we're unable to sell, or they pose a threat to the public health or safety of our citizens. If something to me sits on the gov deal for 6 weeks, it's probably never going to sell because somebody will jump on it quicker, a lot quicker than that. So what I'd like for you to do is to approve, and if we need specific language, or hopefully our attorney can provide it, I'm sure he can, that after something's on the site for 6 weeks, if it hasn't sold, we don't get any bids, to let us be able to dispose of it as trash, if you will.
That sounds like a good proposal.
I would propose that it would be at the discretion of the manager to act as whether it should be disposed.
Okay, that's, does anyone make a motion to accept that?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Commissioner Woodburn, second by Commissioner Gatewood, to allow the disposal process with Mr. Salzman and to salvage or throw things out if they don't get sold within a certain amount of time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay. Now, for the chairman's report, I just was going to bring up one thing. In the July meeting, we have some people coming from the Unison program to do a presentation, and they passed out a little information just to give us a heads up so you can read prior to the program that they're going to present to us in July. So the package where it talks about Unison, My Future NC, they do a lot of great work in Anson County, and they just asked that we look at this so we wouldn't have to see it right before they come and not have time to read it. So that's what that's about there. So that's kind of all I had for the chairman report. But going back to the commissioner concerns, Commissioner Mims, did you want to start?
Yes. I've got several complaints about the environment health specialists taking 2 to 3 months coming out to approve tests. I reached out to Ms. Burr. Ms. Burr stated that they are shorthanded all over the state. Our going rate is $45 to $55 an hour. They come out on their days off and on weekends. I propose with a motion that we make it $80 an hour to make it worth somebody's while to come from Scotland or Charlotte to come down if they get approved by the list from Raleigh to perform these tests.
I second the motion.
And motion made by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Gatewood, and I'd like to point out this is hopefully a temporary fix because we'll wind up with a person that'll do the permitting again before long if, you know, we've got an application, we're accepting applications, so as a temporary fix. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Okay, then for Commissioner concern, Mr. Woodburn, did you say you had addressed that?
It's just information, and it's from Central Ina, and I think I've mentioned this a couple of meetings back. Several years ago, the Connect Beyond plan was finished, and that involves collaboration on mobility between the 9-county region, and because it recognizes the need for transportation. And earlier this year, and advancing the plan, steering committee was formed, and I'm serving on that committee. We've met 3 times, and we're continuing to develop goals. And as I mentioned, what we're looking at is developing a regional mobility plan and regional collaboration. And at whatever point we get information to pass along, I will have that passed along to us. And at some point, I'm hoping to have someone from Central Ina come down and make a presentation to the board in regards to this plan.
Thank you, Mr. Woodburn. And according to Attorney Forbes' advice, we'll discuss the Paylocity in closed session. Mr. Salzman?
One bit of information, going back to a previous meeting when there was a pretty hefty discussion about our 911 process and or maybe the lack of a process because we were in the 1% category due to some windstream problems with AT&T. Jeff Louder, our IT person, or director I should say, and I met with the Windstream folks. We had the director or president of operations, as it were, Stacy Hale. He's based in Concord, North Carolina, somewhere in Cabarrus County, and we also had their director of governmental affairs from Raleigh, and they assured us they were working on it. They have met with AT&T. They've reached some agreements. They decided where they're going to have the connectivity between the Windstream system and the AT&T system so that they can handle our process. They assured me again that they're not in bankruptcy, that they're out, and that they're going to provide whatever equipment has to be done. So they're working with AT&T. I said, well, can you give me a specific date for delivery of the connectivity so that our 911 will be on par with everyone else? They couldn't give me a specific date, but they have already started implementing it. Jeff Louder, like I said, our IT director, has already had 2 follow-up discussions with the technical people to try to iron out the bugs, if you will, so that we can get out of that 1% category and be into the category with all other 99 counties.
That sounds great. I sure appreciate that update. Yeah, yeah.
And one last thing, they also volunteered to come back and throw themselves on the chopping block if you want them to come back at some time for another report from them as opposed to just me.
Well, we might need to do that. At this time, if there's no other commissioner concerns, we would elect to go into closed session if anyone would make a motion to discuss the personnel matter and also the Paylocity question.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioners Mims and Woodburn and Cottle, I think. So we're going to go into closed session to come out again, please.
All right, motion come out of closed session.
Second by Commissioner Mims. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We're out of closed session, back in open session. At this time, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the new contract that we just discussed with Manager Sosselman?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Gatewood and Cottle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Wait, recess.
I'm sorry.
Coming back on.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes, shoot, I got a note about that. Okay, we're gonna make a motion to go into recess until the budget meeting on the 27th at 6 p.m. Okay, does anyone make that motion?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Little. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So we will meet again on the 27th of June at 6 p.m. for the budget meeting.